Hey guys, let's talk about this new moon coming up in about a week or so. It's going to be a really nice one. Sun conjunct moon in Libra, and Venus is also in Libra. So that's going to be really pleasant. It's also going to be a pretty big deal, I think, because it's the apex of a yod between Saturn conjunct Neptune and Uranus, as well as the apex of a T square with Jupiter opposing Pluto. And then Venus, which rules Libra, is part of a grand trine, and it's opposing that Saturn conjunct Neptune. So pretty big deal. Usually when I do these charts like this, I'll write out like 3 pages in my notebook and read that off. But for whatever reason, I just had a mental block. I could not write anything down. So we're just doing this off the cuff. So starting off, new moons, all about intentions, setting your intentions for the next couple of weeks to come. And with it being in Libra, and as well as Venus being in Libra, we are talking about our values. We're talking about our relationships, not just our romantic relationships, but really our relationships just in general with anybody. This will be an excellent time to make any sort of agreements or deals. This will be a good time to progress in any kind of anything where you might need to sign something or anything along those lines. This will be a great time, but really it's all about finding that balance, so let's look back to that full moon that we had not too long ago. And in that time it was all about or at least how I interpreted it. And it ended up working out pretty much like that for me. But, everybody's different. Maybe it didn't really apply to you that much. But how it worked out for me, how I interpreted that chart, was all about recognizing how much you are sacrificing yourself for others and how much you need to focus on what's right for you. And so, assuming that applied for everybody as accurately as it did for me, now we are looking at finding that balance with other people, finding that new equilibrium. And we should be coming to that conclusion with this new moon of what we want and how we're going to progress from here. And so also very interesting as well is when you look at the dispositor tree, which I'll show you in this video. Venus and Mars are both pretty big power players. This new moon is all about Venus, but Mars is still in control of most of the chart. And so there is still that finding balance, but also finding out what actions we need to take that we had talked about before. And then not only that, but Mars is part of a grand trine as well as Venus, but not the same grand trine. So speaking of grand trines, we have Venus in Libra trining Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini. But Uranus is very close to moving into Taurus because it's going retrograde right now. Taurus also ruled by Venus. So we're looking at sudden, unexpected change in relationships and possessions, and very much transformative change. And so we're changing how we speak. We're changing how we interact with society, and how we project our values, what we think is fair. All of this is undergoing a huge change, and pretty soon it will become a change to our possessions itself in a more material sense and less of a social sense. And so that's pretty significant. Mars and Mercury conjunct in Scorpio, so that's our focus on the changes and what we want to do about it. That's trining Jupiter, and that's also trining Saturn. So that's a water grand trine. We are adapting. We are adapting to these large changes that are coming. We are communicating what we want to the universe, and we are adapting to how the universe is going to respond to those changes. And so this is really nice. So if we look at the sun conjunct moon, we have that yod to Saturn conjunct Neptune and Uranus. And these aspects have been making yods with everything. Every major significant chart, this yod has played a part in some way or another. But the apex planet has always been something different. Matter of fact, I believe in the full moon, I'd have to go back and look, but I believe for the full moon, it was Mars that was that apex. Now it's the sun and the moon. And so we are looking, whenever I look at yods, I am seeing it as kind of like a fork in the road. We have two major ways it can go. And the answer, how we need to address the conflict the yod represents, is usually found in the opposition. The opposition, of course, being that Chiron, once again, just like it was for the full moon. And so Chiron in Aries in retrograde is asking us to heal ourselves. And so what we're looking at with this yod is a need to openly communicate what we want. If you're not happy in your relationship, or just the circumstance you have in your life, you need to really address what you would like to change. You need to have that open conversation. You need to put everything out in the clear, so people aren't, because if you're not communicating it, then nobody's going to know. Nobody's going to know what you're going through. And that could be what that Saturn conjunct Neptune is right there. So in order to have the change that you desire, that Uranus can bring quickly, you need to focus on what you need to change for your own health, what you need to change so you can do right by you, and you need to communicate that. But with this T-square to Jupiter opposing Pluto, this could be the conflict, the fear of having these scary conversations that we don't want to upset our partner. We don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to upset somebody. But so we have this fear of things getting blown completely out of proportion, of ruining everything. But we just need to be mindful of our emotions. We need to be mindful of what we want to talk about and how we want to talk about it, but not to the point where we will let emotions take over and then not have a very productive conversation. So that's really what I'm seeing here. And let me show you the dispositor tree that I drew really quick, because I think it will help illustrate my point a little bit. Okay, so you see we have Venus and Mars at the top here. They're circled because they're in signs that they themselves rule. So they're both very powerful right now, but they're not really interacting with each other. So we have this new moon here under Venus. We are setting our intentions. We are setting our intentions for what we want, what will bring us balance in ourselves, but also in our relationships. And here we could see from moon down to Jupiter Cancer, down to Saturn and Pisces. This is a concern of things getting out of control and being afraid of the unknown outcome. Over here, we have Mars and Scorpio, and Neptune being ruled by it. This is that not knowing what to do, how to best approach it. But here we have Mercury ruled by Mars in Scorpio, but and also by Pluto. And so we have Pluto to Uranus, to Mercury, to Pluto. And so here is having that conversation.